Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are back with another makeup tutorial. I'm so happy to be back to filming. If you guys follow me on Instagram, then you probably already know that I was in Houston doing some modeling for Stacey Marie and Mitchell for their masterclass. And right after that, I went to Miami to spend time with family. So I'm all rested up and I'm super excited to get back into filming and doing makeup. So let's go ahead and jump into this tutorial. To start off, I'm going to use the P. Louise base in the shade Rumour number 4. I'm going to apply 2 layers of this. So I went ahead and carved my brows first, applied the product using a brush, and then blended it out a little bit more using a sponge, and then I just repeated the same process to make sure I get a really good coverage. While I was in Houston, I learned so much from Stacey and Mitchell, so if you guys see any like new tips and tricks and everything, it's most likely because I learned it from them while I was there. Next up, we're going to go into some eyeshadows. I'm going to be using the Juvia's Place Masquerade palette, and with this purpley pinkish color, I'm going to start applying that into the crease using my trusty Morphe M506. You guys already know this is like my favorite brush to go in with crease colors. I'm using really light pressure, and I'm just going to make sure to build that color up until I have like my desired like pigmentation, and I'm making sure to also kind of wing the shape out because we are going to be doing more of like a winged look for today. Now for some Fenty blotting powder, I'm going to use this to set the base right underneath my brow and above that crease color that we applied. That way when I apply my next transition color, the blend is a lot more smooth and seamless. Next, I'm going to be dipping into the Stacey Marie and Bperfect Cosmetics Carnival palette. I'm going to be taking the shade Funky, which is like more of a fluorescent, like neon type pink, and use that to blend out the edges of our last crease color. And just make sure you take your time at this point because we want to make sure that there's no harsh lines anywhere and that that blend is really, really smooth. Now I want to go ahead and start deepening up the crease. So I'm going to go back into the Carnival palette, and with the shade Liquor, I'm going to use a Morphe M507. This one's slightly more tapered than the M506, and I'm going to use this brush to blend out that color onto the crease. I do kind of wish I would have took more time to blend out the shadow. After like taking pictures and everything like that, I feel like I kind of noticed a little bit of harshness that I could have avoided if I would have just blended a little bit more, but at least I'll know for next time. Then to deepen up the crease even more, I'm going to be using the Pat McGrath, the Bronze Seduction palette, and using the darkest color in this palette, I'm going to place that onto the crease as well using that same Morphe M507. You can totally skip this step if you feel like you're good with like the depth of your crease at this point. I just like to have that really high contrast, so that's why I'm adding the color there, but I'm not using a whole lot of it. It's more so just to give that eye a little bit of extra dimension. Now I'm ready to go ahead and do my first cut crease. I did a little bit of cleaning up on my lid with a makeup wipe before I went in with my concealer. And to cut the crease, I'm using an oldie but a goodie. This is the Makeup Revolution concealer in the shade C1. I like to use a really light shade when I'm doing any type of like light or bright colors on the lid because I feel like the colors kind of stand out a little bit more. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this to cut my crease. I'm making sure to kind of take it up a little bit higher because we are gonna be doing like a double cut crease. This first cut crease is gonna be the foundation for our ombre like neon liner that we're gonna be doing. So again, I'm just making sure to take it kind of high into the lid area so I have enough space to kind of show off that neon liner when my eyes are open and enough space to also create my second cut crease. Now it's time to add our neon pigments. I'm super excited for this part because I love these pigments so much. They're from Mayo Makeup and I'm gonna use a mixture of, I think 4 different colors for this liner that we're gonna do. So the first one I'm using is the neon orange and I'm applying this directly onto the concealer. I'm using more of like a small pencil brush to apply this and I'm using very light pressure as well. You don't need to kind of like press this really hard onto the eye. Let the brush do all the work for you and the colors will kind of like blend themselves out almost. So I'm going to take the orange pretty high up. I'm kind of going about 1/3 of the way. And then next I'm going to go into the neon pink. So I'm going to apply that right next to the orange and kind of drag it into the orange so it blends together. For the third color, I'm going to be using more of like a fuchsia type of pink. It's just slightly darker than the second pink that we use. It's going to make it a little bit easier for us to transition it into the purple that we're going to add all the way on the outer edge. So our neon pigments are looking pretty good at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing our second cut crease. I'm using the same Makeup Revolution concealer in C1. So I'm taking it slightly underneath that first cut crease that we did to create a liner. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut my crease as I normally would and just make sure to take my time so that way I get a really, really clean, sharp line. So our cut crease is done. I'm gonna start blending out the outer edges of it. I'm gonna go into this dark purple from the Carnival palette and just apply that onto the outer corner of our cut crease to start blending it out. And also I wanna start creating a kind of like smoky liner there. So I'm just kind of packing it onto the outer corner and then bringing in towards like the lash line to create that liner effect. From here, I just want to deepen up the outer corner even more, so I'm going to go back in with Liquor and Extreme Aubergine from the Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction palette and apply those onto the outer corner and lash line to really deepen up the look and give that lash line that extra bit of smoke. For the lid, I'm going to be using two colors from the Makeup Addiction Flaming Love palette. The purple that I'm applying on the outer half is called Amethyst, and I'm using a pencil brush just to make sure I get that really nice precision and I don't like go above like that cut crease line. And then for the inner part of the lid, I'm going to use the shade Belize, which is like an aqua blue. I love this color so much. It's so pretty. But I'm going to use a separate pencil brush and apply this onto the inner part. And for both colors, I'm making sure to kind of press and drag the color onto the lid so that way I get that really, really nice metallic finish. To add a bit more shimmer to the lid, I'm going to use two pigments from Peach's Makeup. The first shade is Hocus Pocus, and it's like a purpley blue type of color, so I thought it would look really, really pretty above the amethyst shade that we applied. And then the second color I'm using is Mermaze. I love this pigment so much. I'm going to apply that right over Belize just to give it a little bit of extra shimmer. Next, I'm going to apply lashes. The lashes I'm using are from Crvstal lashes, and these are in the style Audrina. I'm going to pop these onto my lash line using a pair of tweezers, and then right after, once I'm done like pressing them in and everything, I'm going to apply a couple of coats of mascara onto my natural lashes to kind of make sure that they blend in well with the falsies. And the mascara that I'm using is from Too Faced. It's their Better Than Sex mascara. So I'm going to pause with the eyes for a sec and move on to skin. To prime my skin, I'm going to use the Covergirl Skin Smoothing Primer, and I'm just going to rub that all over just to make sure my skin is nice and smooth before we apply foundation. Then I'm going to go in with the Jouer Essential High Coverage Foundation in the shades Cocoa and Caramel. I'm a little bit on the tan side now, so that's why I'm mixing these two colors together. I'm going to apply this foundation with a brush first, and then once I'm done applying, I'm going to go back in with a damp sponge and just kind of press the foundation into the skin to get that really smooth, flawless finish. Then to conceal, I'm using two separate concealers also from Jouer in the shades Dulce, Leche, and Honey. I'm going to use the darker of the two first to kind of brighten all the areas that I want to highlight. So underneath my eyes, a little bit on the sides of my mouth, my chin, and the sides of my nose. Then just like I did my foundation, I'm going to blend it out using a brush and then go over it with a sponge. Then I'm going to go into that lighter concealer, which is Honey, and apply that on all the areas where I want that extra bit of brightness, and repeat the same steps, so blending it out with the brush and then going back over it with a sponge. Then to set all my concealer, I'm going to use the new OPV Beauty Loose Setting Powder in the shade Translucent, and I'm just going to gently pat this in over all the areas where I applied concealer using a brush. Then to bring back that brightness underneath the eyes, I'm going to go in with the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Medium Golden and apply the smallest amount on the innermost part of my under eye. I love the fact that this powder makes my under eyes look really, really smooth and perfected, so I'm also using it for that reason too. Then to set the rest of my skin, I'm going to use the MAC Studio Fix powder in the shade NC50. At this point, I want to bring some color back into my skin, so I want to bronze using the CoverGirl Full Spectrum Pressed Powder in the shade Deep Cool 2. This one has a bit of warmth to it, so I thought it would be perfect to bronze with, and the formula is really smooth, so it worked really nice over the Studio Fix powder. Stacey and Mitchell both got me into blush, so I went ahead and tried some blush today. This is totally out of my comfort zone. You guys know that I never use blush, but after seeing them apply blush on me and seeing how it looked, I absolutely loved it. So I went ahead and applied some blush today, and for that I went in with the shade Flamingo from the Violet Voss Glamingo palette. And as I'm applying, I'm also making sure to blend it in with my bronzer. To finish up the eyes, I'm basically going to use all the colors that I applied on the crease onto the lower lash line. So I'm going in with Liquor first, using a smudger brush and taking that really, really close to the lashes. Then I'm going to go in with that purpley pinkish color from the Juvia's Place Masquerade palette with a Morphe M507. And right after, I'm going to go in with Funky from the Carnival palette, which is like that neon kind of fluorescent pink, and use that as my last kind of transition shade on the lower lash line. And then to deepen up the lashes even more, I'm going to go in with Extreme Aubergine from the Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction palette. I did apply a black liner onto my waterline off camera, so right after I just went ahead and did some mascara, going back in with that Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. Then from there, I'm going to add my inner corner highlight. I'm using the new Violet Voss Sugar Crystal palette and taking like this light green shadow. I'm going to place that right in the inner corner. Once that color's on, I'm going to go back into the Bronze Seduction palette from Pat McGrath, and taking that really shimmery green, I'm going to add that into the inner corners and also as my brow bone highlight. For brows, I'm going in with the usual dip brow pomade from Anastasia in the shade Ebony. I was definitely feeling a more sculpted brow today, so I started off creating my shape by making a line on the bottom and top of my brow, then use really light pressure to create hair strokes within any sparser areas. Then for some added hold and color, I went in with the new Dip Brow Gel in the shade Dark Brown. Then to mold all those powders and products together on my skin and make sure they are one, I use the Wet n Wild's Mega Glow Face Mist. I love how thin and airy this mist is. Unfortunately, I do have to use my hands now to dry my face mist because my dog ended up eating my fan. She ate my fan, so I don't have a fan anymore. So yeah, we are temporarily using our hands to dry our face mist. And now our skin is ready for some highlight. I'm gonna be using the Oh So Blinding highlighter palette from Jolie Beauty. I love this palette so much. The highlighters in here are super smooth. I'm gonna be using a combination of 2 highlighters and applying that on all the points where I want to really glow. So the cheekbones, the nose, a little bit on the Cupid's bow. For some reason, I forgot to add my forehead highlight, but I did add that off camera. So once my highlighter's on, I'm gonna go ahead and start lining my lips. I started off using the NYX Suede Matte Lip Liner in the shade Downtown Beauty, and it was like, forget that midway. I'm just gonna go in with my MAC lip liner in Chestnut. So I went ahead and lined my lips using that, and I also made sure to feather in the outer corners. That way it's a lot more easy for me to blend in my lipstick into my lip liner. Then to fill in my lips, I'm using a liquid lipstick from Jordana Tissia Cosmetics in the shade In the Buff. I'm going to apply this onto my lips using the applicator and just blend it out using a brush, just making sure to really blend it into the lip liner so there's no harsh lines anywhere.
Perfect, perfect.
And of course I gotta add some lip gloss. I'm using P. Louise's gloss in the shade Holla. And that pretty much completes the look, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more makeup tutorials, and don't forget to click the bell if you want to get a notification whenever I do post. And yeah, thank you so much again for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.